Hey folks, it's Becky with Becky's Health Journey, and I'm coming back to you after a big break from giving you updates and training for my first triathlon and doing all the things. So we're going to come back with a two-part video on this. First one, I want to talk about my triathlon experience. Second part, I want to talk about what I'm doing next. But that'll be the next video, so stick around for that. Man, it has been many months since I did my triathlon, and it was a really good experience. I think part of the reason that I didn't make a video sooner and I don't have hardly any footage of the day is because I have really bad anxiety. I've been going to therapy for a couple years now, working through some stuff, and anxiety is one of those things. And I was nervous getting ready for the triathlon and drove in and immediately started to panic to the point where I could not function hardly. And ended up reaching out to my therapist and had a couple of words with her, deep breaths, doing all the things, and I finally was able to check in. And check-in was probably the most overwhelming part of this entire race because I didn't know where I was going. I'd never been there before. I didn't know anybody, and there was just so many people, and it was just overwhelming and very much just completely overwhelmed and overstimulated. Everyone was super nice. Stood in line for a bit, got checked in, got my race bib, my timing ankle monitor. They had to write on the back of my calves my race number, and check-in process, besides the anxiety, it was pretty good. Had to drive to a different spot to drop off my bike for the transition point 1, and I ended up not doing a transition 2 setup because I didn't have any specific running shoes that I was going to change into, and I was going to do a hat, but I ended up not doing a hat anyways, which is really good because I wouldn't have had time to find anything for the transition. Originally, when they talked to us about the triathlon, we were going to have I knew there was a window of time that I needed to complete the swim and the bike in, but they ended up shortening it quite significantly. And so I was essentially down to the wire with making it into the run, or they were going to stop me from finishing the course. And so, first things first, got in, checked in, got my tent set up, and met some amazing folks right next to me. They do this triathlon every year. It's a couple. They do it at the same time, so they each do their swim individually, because man and woman, but then they join together and they do the bike and the run and finish together, and it's kind of like a really fun thing for them. And Jess, my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, I know, big update, she came in really late after she got off work and got up with me the next morning. We got ready. I was so nervous to do the swim. I had this rinky-dink wetsuit that I got that just didn't fit quite right, but it was what I had, and I was nervous about swimming in the water, and I was nervous about everything. My parents came. They were able to see me before the race started, and then went down, got in the water, and the swim was just, it wasn't too bad. It was better than I was expecting. The couple that we met was very nice. They gave me some good advice. The swim, this is the Spudman Triathlon. The swim is current aided from the water, and they said, hey, if you stay by the bank, there's less current. If you go out towards the middle of the river, which is you can, there's more current, and it's going to help you swim faster. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go out towards the center of the river and follow that down and then move over at the end. And it helped amazingly well. They had a walking trail right next to the river so that my parents and my girlfriend at the time could walk along, and I could hear my mom shouting because I could not put my face under the water. That's something that I freaked out a couple times during training, trying to put my head under the murky water, and it just didn't work out very well. I ended up losing my swim cap because it didn't go on very well, and I have a lot of hair, and I just kept a very steady pace and just kept going the whole time. I could hear my mom screaming. It was funny. She'd be like, "Go, Becky!" And they had a ton of boats and kayaks and people there making sure we were safe. And one of them asked me, "Oh, are you feeling okay? You doing okay? Do you need any help?" And right about the same time, my mom yelled, and I was like, "Oh no, my mom won't let me drown." and we all had a pretty good chuckle about that. Finished the swim, made it in. I was doing pretty good. I was not the last. I was close to the last, but I was steady the whole time. Had a longer transition that I wanted to, changing out of my wetsuit into bike and run clothes, and then jumped on the bike, and I was off. And I knew I was down to the wire. Like, I couldn't overdo it on the bike because I didn't train hard enough to overdo it on the bike to be able to finish the run. But if I didn't get the bike in time, then I wasn't going to be able to do the run at all. And I wanted to, so it was really just like within minutes of me. If anything went wrong, I was not going to be able to finish triathlon, essentially, because they had a time cutoff. Jumped on the bike and started going, and everything went really smoothly with the bike. I was able to maintain my steady pace, and I knew I was one of the last ones, because one of the interesting things was they had all the full triathlon, the Olympics triathlon, and then after that they have a shortened version of the triathlon, and they all came in the swim after me and started passing me on the bike, but they turned because they have a shorter course. So at the beginning of the bike, it was a little overwhelming because there was a ton of bikes coming around me because a lot of people are faster than me. But beautiful farm fields. Most of the race was very, very calm and quiet. Didn't have any issues with traffic. Was able to stay hydrated, go and be just essentially switching between water and electrolytes the whole time. And it didn't get until the very end when I was looking and I knew that I was pushing it to make it back for the cutoff. And they were packing up stations when I was passing them. And I knew I was the last one coming in, really. And came in, and the majority of people had already finished the race by this point. And I don't know how far I am behind, but I know that a lot of people have finished. Because you come in and you come off the main road and you go into the park, to the golf course park area, where you go back into the transition, which it happens to be the finish line for the run too. And I was fighting, physically, like, slowed down a lot, fighting for people to move over to let me go through because people were trying to leave and they had taken over the race lane because they weren't maintaining it anymore because I was like one of the last ones. And so it was really difficult for me to come in, and my mother had been at that transition point going, nope, she's coming, she's gonna make it, and they were fingers crossed on if I was or not. And I came down with like a minute to spare, ran in, found a random spot, threw my bike up, and then started running as fast as I could to make the transition. And I was like, you sure I can go? And they were like, yep. And I was like, you sure? And they let me go. And it was very rough after that because I was tired and I could not run hardly at all by the end. I walked like the first full mile after the little sprint to get on the course. I walked about the first mile completely without even trying to run, and then I started to get into like a little jog, run. And one of the parts of the course you go behind on a canal bank behind these fields, and a car came up behind me and I thought they were going to pull me, and she asked if I wanted to be done, and I essentially said no, like I would like to finish. She says, okay, I'll come back and give you water, because they were closing down water stations. And so by the time I got to that last water station, she waited for me, she gave me a bottle of water and wished me luck, and I continued on, and I ended up passing 3 different people at the end of this walk, and one was a pair, and they just were not doing very well, and one was not doing well either, but ended up passing them right at the very end and turning the corner. And by this time they were trying to shut down the finish line, and my mom was in her best mom mode, standing fast that I was going to come in because she knew that I was going to finish this, and she wanted them to hold that finish line for me, and they did. So Jess started walking up the trail from the finish line up towards into the course, and she met me probably half a mile in from the finish line, and that was really sweet. We were able to kind of run in a little bit together, and then my mom even came up and met us maybe a 1/10 of a mile up, and we walked down the hill together. And then I went into the finish chute and I said goodbye to them, and I ran on in. They called my name, as finishing the Olympic District Triathlon. But it was quite the experience. It was just my parents and my fiance cheering for me at the end, and the one announcer guy who stuck around, they gave me my medal, took my picture, and then they shut it down. And I was pretty tired after that, so, but just very, very much satisfied and proud with myself on getting the triathlon done, and not giving up, even though I could have slacked on the bike and not been able to finish. That was a choice that I had to make in my head, that I wanted it bad enough. So, I mean, it overall was a really good experience being able to camp there and interact with that couple. They introduced us to a couple friends, and they were there when I finished. They all congratulated me and were super excited about me finishing my first triathlon, even though I was slow and probably the last person on the course to finish, because I think everybody else got pulled. But I did it. I did my first triathlon. It's been a goal of mine for 10 plus years to do an Olympic District triathlon. I guess I'll give you a hint as what I'm talking about in my next breakdown with this. But I got engaged. We're going to lose weight together for the wedding. And we both want to do the Spudman Triathlon next year, 2025, at the end of July. So, it's exciting. I'm going to leave this video here. Hopefully you guys are still with me, because that was quite a few months break. And we'll jump into my next video where I talk about what we're working towards, kind of goal-wise, weight loss-wise, and what that kind of looks like for us. So, hopefully I'll see you next video, folks. Bye.